gonna be the book for me, but
she is broke as hell. You guys want to see my little book haul? This book had me freaking paranoid. It could be an absolute disaster and I could be completely wrong. I cannot put this book down. Blah, blah, blah. What? Probably my favorite book of all time now. Hello you guys, it is me, it is I. Hi, welcome back to my channel if you are new here. My name is Ivy and today we are going to be doing a reading vlog where I'm going to be reading 4 brand new horror releases that are all the rage, all the hype, and all that jazz. There's a hair in my face. But, so we're going to be reading 4 different books for this reading vlog that I'm super excited for. These are all like 5-star predictions, so I'm very excited for this. The first up we have Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. This is a Gothic time loop sort of horror book, which I am so excited for because not only did I give Kylie Lee Baker her debut book like a 5 stars and was one of my favorite books of 2025, but the fact that it plays with time loops on top of that, which is like one of my favorite tropes ever, I'm super excited for. So we're going back and forth in time. We're following our main character whose name is Lee Turner, and Lee Turner believes that he has unalived his roommate. So in order to escape and run away from that, he decides to go to Japan to visit his dad to run away from that. And then he ends up going to his room, and then in his room he is able to travel back in time because he lives in a samurai house to the 1800s, where he comes face to face with our other main character, Sen, and Sen is a young samurai, female samurai, the last samurai of her time, because this is right after samurais are banned from Japan. And then we see these 2 characters get together and kind of figure out how their stories collide and why they are able to see each other. So I'm very excited to be reading this one. And then the next book that we have is The Caretaker by Marcus Kliewer. I've been saying Kliewer this whole time, and I believe most of us have been saying Kliewer this whole time, but then I watched a video. What is her name? I literally just found her YouTube channel today. I'll put her channel down below, but she just read this book and she called him Kliewer. And she said that his name is Marcus Kliewer because she saw like a panel with him and he pronounced it. And so his name is Marcus Kliewer. So anyways, we have The Caretaker, which is literally probably my #1 most anticipated book of 2026, because his last book, We Used to Live Here, is literally my favorite horror book of all time. And so I am expecting nothing less. So the bar is set very high for this author. But in this book, we are following our main character, and her name is Macy Mullins. And Macy Mullins she is desperate, okay? Like, she is broke. She is broke to the point where like she is living in a very dirty studio apartment with her sister, because it's just her and her sister, and she's left to take care of her sister. And she's so broke that she literally is taking furniture off of the street because she cannot afford to buy any furniture. Like, that's how broke she is. So she finds this part-time position for a caretaker online on Craigslist, and the woman offers her a lot of money in order to work just 3 days. Just 3 days, not 3 days a week, but just 3 days total. And she's like, okay, how bad can it be? But then she gets this like video that she has to watch, and it's hella creepy, and there's all these rights that she has to follow. Why does she have to follow these rights? This person just insane? And then from there, things, I assume, take off. So that is The Caretaker by Marcus Kliewer. Again, another 5-star prediction. The next book that we're going to be reading in this reading vlog is MOLKA by Monika Kim. And this is another very anticipated book for me because she wrote the book The Eyes Are the Best Part that I absolutely adored. And she writes a lot of like feminist horror, feminine rage horror, and this one is supposed to be no different because we're following our main character. We're following 2 characters. We're following Jun Young, and we're following Da Ye. So Jun Young works at this like IT, he works in IT, and he is this like really creepy guy that like sets up private cameras in girls' bathrooms. And then we're following Da Ye, as she has this like picture perfect life. She has the perfect husband or the perfect boyfriend, and then one day this like scandal, this MOLKA scandal, so a secret camera scandal, kind of blows up in her face and ruins her life. And so we're following these two characters, literally the creep's perspective and then Daye's perspective, who is one of the women that has to suffer for that. And I believe there's a lot of social commentary on how women are treated versus men, especially in Korea. And so very excited to be reading this one. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we have yet another feminist horror book, and that is Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer. And I heard that this one is very unhinged. I feel like this is a book that if you like Rosemary's Baby, this might be a book that you enjoy, because in this one we are following our main character, and her name is Camille Deming, and she is a influencer. Like, she's a Tradwife influencer, even though her husband's a piece of crap. But because her father raised her, and her father raised her to be a Tradwife, she feels like that's who she has to be. And so she's very desperate for a baby, but her husband will not touch her. So she has this, she'll buy herself flowers and be like, oh, look at what my husband got me. And like literally put on this front that she's like living this picture perfect life, which is again, just social commentary on how social media is. Like, we really don't know what's going on, but they can put up a front and we automatically think that these influencers' lives are perfect. So then she's desperate for this baby, that she makes this wish on a well, and then this demon impregnates her and she gets pregnant with this demon's child. And so it is definitely, sounds very unhinged, very crazy, and very, very fun. And with a lot of social commentary on influencers, especially Tradwife influencers, and expectations of women versus men. So very, very excited for this one. So we're going to be reading these 4 books, and I will let you know my thoughts at the very, very end.
Hello, you guys. Hi. I know I look scary, but I came to update you on Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer, because I am now about halfway through this, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This book, I mean, it took me by surprise, I guess, because the fact that it's called Tradwife, and me being very, very feminist, like, I saw this title and I was like, I don't know if that's gonna be the book for me. But the more that I've been seeing reviews about it, I'm like, all right, okay, I'm gonna give this one a shot. And honestly, I'm glad that I did. So in this book, we are following our main character. I always forget our damn main character's name. Her name is Camille. And Camille is a Tradwife influencer, and all she wants is a baby. And she is married to this piece of crap guy, and obviously he's freaking cheating on her, and he's just a shitty ass person. And so she ends up wishing upon a wishing well in the middle of the woods to have a baby, and she ends up getting pregnant by this demon thing. And then the story begins, and we see her go through this pregnancy, and her belly grows very, very fast. And because her husband is so MIA, he doesn't even realize the fact that all of a sudden she's so super pregnant, and any excuse that she gives him, he believes her right away, because it's not like he's around anyways. And then she ends up giving birth to the baby halfway through, and it's obvious there's something very wrong with this child. She's not an average baby. She's going through all these milestones quicker than others, and yeah, she doesn't like to drink bottles or milk or anything like that. She craves blood. So there is obviously there's something wrong with this child. And I am really, really enjoying this, even though it is about a Tradwife, even though it is about, you know what I mean, like misogyny and all this crap, and like Tradwife influencers. And it's still so interesting to follow the perspective of someone that is so desperate to be a Tradwife because that is what she was taught that she needed to be. So it's not actually what she really wanted, but because her upbringing and because her father kind of sort of forced her onto that, as if like that's what you're supposed to be if you're a woman. She felt like she had to put her needs on the back burner and become this person that the world expected her to be, specifically her father, since he's the one that raised her. And so she put her needs, her wants, on the back end, and then she is trying to put on this facade that this is actually what she wants, and now she's going to have to suffer the consequences. And it's honestly, I'm having a really good time with this. I cannot wait to see how dark and deep this book gets, and like things are already happening. Like things shiznit is popping. Okay, there's something very wrong with the baby. The baby sleeps like 20 hours a day and is only awake when nobody else is around but the mom. And so I'm very interested in how what's going to happen. So yeah, just wanted to update you and let you know how it's going.
This whole horror reading vlog is turning into a complete horror show because I noticed that every time I've been updating you so far, I've been looking a little crazy, okay? I have no makeup, and so hello, jump scare. Anyways, I finished Dreadwife by Saratoga Schaefer, and I liked it, okay? I liked it. I think I already talked about what this book is about, but we're following this woman that really wants to be a trad wife, and then she gets impregnated by this demon thing, and then she gives birth to Satan's, or the demon spawn, basically. And this child is not of this earth. This child is not human. And I really liked this book. Okay, I liked how it talked about so many topics. Specifically, the topic that I really liked that it tackled was how women and mothers are seen, how women are seen once they're mothers versus, and the expectations of women once they become mothers versus the expectations of men, you know, once they become fathers. I feel like for women, once they're moms, they're expected to always make fresh meals and always be like on top of cleaning, cooking, everything. And they have to be this picture perfect person versus the father. There's not really any pressure on them, and there's never any, I'm not saying that there's never, but like there's not really, there's definitely not as much negative feedback on the father figure in society's eyes versus the mother. And there's so much more pressure as a mother versus a father, because this whole time that our main character is posting her child, her life, and, you know, her being a trad wife, there's so many like expectations there, versus like she will post one occasional post of her husband and being like, oh, he brought me flowers, and oh my gosh, he's the best husband ever, as if that's all a man has to do to be considered a great husband. And so, but yet she's over here making these videos where she's like going over the top for her husband, for her house, for her child. And that's what's expected. And they're just expecting it. They're like, oh my gosh, you're great because you're doing everything. Versus the man brings you flowers and you don't see him do anything else. And oh my gosh, he's just as amazing, even though you don't see him doing anything else. I hope that makes sense. But I really like how it tackled that. So not just like the mother aspect, like I said, but also like the wife. What a wife, the expectations of a wife versus the expectations of a husband. And also, I was very skeptical at first because I don't really like books that have a lot of misogynistic topics, especially if we're following a character that, for example, is a trad wife and is happy with this lifestyle. And if that's you, then do you, but I don't want to read from it. But like, I don't know. It just irks me to like be like, oh yes, my whole life is going to be my husband, and that's that's everything. Like, no, like, live your life. Like, you deserve as much of a life as he does. You know what I mean? Hello, equality. And so I was very skeptical about this one, just from the title, just from the description. But I'm happy that I read it, because it definitely, if you're like me and you are very hesitant on reading topics like this, just read it, just push through, and I guarantee you're going to get your satisfaction. You're going to get the unhinged women, supporting women's rights and women's wrongs and women's wrongs moments. So don't worry about it just being so misogynistic. It definitely is a lot more than that, and I like how it handles these difficult topics. Love the social commentary, I loved the story, and I loved that I definitely left the book very satisfied with the ending and and it just felt very justified. Like I said, very support women's rights and women's wrongs. So I really like this book. Definitely gives me like Rosemary's Baby vibes. Have I read Rosemary's Baby? No, but I've read like Nestlings, which is like a retelling, but definitely gives me those vibes. Or like American Horror Story, the murder house, you know how she gives birth to, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. So that's this one, and now on to the next. I think we're gonna do The Caretaker next. So I'm here with my update on The Caretaker, and I got 106 pages in. So I am really loving this. It seems like this is going to be another hit from Marcus Kliewer. So if you guys do not know, Marcus Kliewer is the author of We Used to Live Here, which is literally one of my favorite books of all time, and my ultimate #1 favorite horror book of all time. And so when I found out that he was coming out with this, it was the first book in my most anticipated 2026 releases. And honestly, okay, and so obviously my expectation, the bar was high, okay? And usually when my bar is high, a lot of times, most of the times, I'm disappointed and it doesn't meet those expectations. But this one, it's so good. It's so good. So we're following our main character, Macy, and Macy is shit ass broke. She is broke as hell. And so she's literally responsible for her sister, and even though she went to college, she is finding no jobs and she's constantly losing them. And so they have no money. They have no money. They're getting ready to be evicted, and literally, like, Macy is desperate for a job, and they live in this small town, so it's not like there's too many positions open. And so Macy gets desperate and she looks on Craigslist, and then she finds this caretaker little entry posted, this caretaker thing like posted online, and Macy was like, all right, it's like competitive pay, let's give it a shot. And so she goes to this place that is off of some cliffs, and it's a little ways away, and it's where all the rich people live. And she gets the interview with the homeowner, and it was a husband and a wife that owned this home. The husband, we see him at the very, very beginning as he is doing these rights, like following these rules and regulations and maneuvering these monsters. And that's literally how the book starts off, with this older man like doing these rights for the monsters to stop something horrible from happening. So that's how it starts. And then now that we're shifting to Macy's perspective, in the current day, we find out that something happened to the husband. We don't know what. He ended up passing away. And so it's just the wife. And so the wife tells Macy, like, hey, I need you to, I'm not going to be here. This is actually not a caretaking job. My husband has passed away. I just need you to take care of the house. And she's like, okay, so this is a house sitting job. And she's like, yes, but you need to follow these rules. And she gives her a VHS tape. And then she's like, if you take this, then I will give you $3,000 up front. And I will give you another $6,000 if everything is perfect and good when I come back in 3 days. So for just 3 days, Macy has the chance to get $9,000. And so she's like, all right, I'm going to do it. What is 3 days going to do? So she goes home and she begins watching this tape, and it very much gives me like The Ring vibes, because we're seeing this man and as he's like talking to the camera, and he's like, you have to follow this. You have to make sure that all the doors are locked. You have to make sure that you walk around the house from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. And if you don't follow these rules, make sure that you lock the doors, because if not, these things could happen, and make sure that you follow these rules. And he's like, if in case you break this rule, here's a little envelope for this emergency or that emergency. And Macy's just like watching it like, what the hell? And then he ends the video with saying, like, if you don't follow this, if you don't follow these rules, then this entity that I have been able to contain within my house and my property is going to get out and end the world. And so Macy's sister is like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you taking this job? And Macy's like, I already used half the money that they gave me up front to pay the rent, and we desperately need this money. And so she decides to go back, and she decides to take the job. And I am right where she is at this house, and she literally just got there. The lady just left, and so now she's truly alone in the house. And so that's where I'm at, and it's so freaking good. Oh my gosh, the way that this man writes, it's just so perfect. He writes so freaking good. Like, I love it. Even the last book, both of them, they literally feel like movies that are playing out in my head. And not only that, but one thing that this book has that We Used to Live Here didn't is the humor aspect. I feel like I'm laughing out loud so much, specifically with our main character's younger sister, who's 17, by the way, so she's not like that young. She has such a hilarious sense of humor that I am finding myself like laughing out loud. I love the shiznit that comes out of her mouth, because she's just absolutely hilarious, and it's creepy as shit. It's creepy as shit. It literally feels like The Ring mixed with like the back rooms, mixed with Cabin at the End of the World. It's so good. Like, I am freaking obsessed. I'm freaking obsessed right now. I cannot put this book down. It's been a day? It's so freaking good. It's literally everything that I was hoping for and more. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. Right, you guys, hi, hello. So I have a update for you. I have two updates for you, I guess. First things first, I never showed you what I got at what? I never showed you what I got at Barnes & Noble last night, so I'm going to show you the 3 books that I bought. And second of all, I finished The Caretaker, so I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on that. So, for the book haul, if you guys want to see my little book haul, number one is, I know that Barnes & Noble is a bigger company, right? But one, at least it's not Amazon. And two, I typically go to Barnes & Noble when my fiance takes me to, because I just recently started going to indie bookstores, and I typically go to Barnes & Noble when my fiance takes me because it's where he buys me books. So he bought me these books. So technically I'm not breaking any book ban rules. At least not right now. Not with this. So let me show you the 3 books that I got. So because of The Caretaker, right? Because I am chasing this high, I got nothing but horror books. So number one, first off, it is April. It is May 18th. Yesterday was May 17th. So 2 of these books were actually out earlier than they were supposed to be. But the first book that I got was I Know a Place by Nat Cassidy. This is a collection of short stories. I didn't even know that this was out yet, but I was looking in the horror section. I saw this and I was like, ooh, okay. And so I'm usually not a big fan of short story collections, but it's Nat Cassidy, and I haven't rated Nat Cassidy any lower than a 3-star. So I even though I'm usually hesitant with short story collections, the fact that it's Nat Cassidy, and I already read the first short story because he actually published it as a separate novella called Rest Stop, and I gave that one like 4 stars. So I know that I like the first short story, so I have high hopes that the rest of these are going to be pretty good, because like I said, so far Nat Cassidy has not disappointed me at all. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, that it stays that way. The second book that I got, this one also is out early. Oh, this one and the other one are out early. This one comes out May 25th or 26th or something like that, but it's out now. But they had it out. So I got Teddy Bears Don't Die by Sho Yeon and translated by Sung Ryu. And this is a book that has been on one of my most anticipated lists ever since I saw like the cover. I was like, okay, whatever that is, I need it. And this is a horror book in which we are following our main character, Yamu. We're following our main character, Yamu, and Yamu lives in a luxurious apartment with her family. And one day, somebody starts handing out rice cakes to the people that live in this apartment building. And they end up being poisoned rice cakes, and over 7 people are killed and injured or hurt really, really bad, or like in the ICU because of these poisoned rice cakes. And Yuma's family ends up passing away from these poisoned rice cakes. So she somehow finds and works together with this person named Doha. His name's Doha, and he wakes up like possessing a teddy bear's body. And so together, they get together and they plot revenge against whoever unalived Yamu's family. I don't know why I kept saying Yuma. Yamu's family. So I'm really excited for this. I read the prologue last night and it was honestly so captivating. I was like, oh hell yes. And I don't know what it is about translated works, especially books that are translated from Korean and Japanese. I really like those translations. I just think that the way that they write books are so much more, the prose is more lyrical, first of all, and second of all, like there's just so many more like wisdom and like all these like messages to their story and purpose to their stories, which I really love. So very excited for this one. And then the last and third book that I got was Of My Bone by Johanna Van Veen. You're going to see this in an actual book haul that I'm going to be doing for Pride Month because I'm doing a sapphic book haul. But this one, we are following our 2 main characters. We're following Sister Ursula and we are following Elspeth. And Elspeth is a peasant. She is a peasant, and it is the 1600s. And basically, Sister Ursula finds a saint's head or her skull, and they say that if you reunite the saint's skull with her body, you're granted a wish. And so Ursula and what's her face, Elizabeth, they get together and they try, I guess I'm assuming they're going to try to get the body together with the head, but there's somebody else that's also trying to reunite the skull with the body. Some darker forces are at play as well. So I'm very excited for this. The fact that it takes place in like the 1600s can go one of two ways. I can either really love this or I can absolutely hate it. I'm thinking like the Starving Saints. So we will see, but I read the first page or the first few pages of this one, and right away, like, I loved the writing. Took me in right away. So very excited for that one. So those are the 3 books that I got at Barnes & Noble. So that's my little mini book haul. Now, let's get on to the final review for The Caretaker. So I finally finished this baby, and I finished it in like 2 or 3 days because I could not put it down. Oh my goodness. Like, okay, Marcus Kliewer wrote We Used to Live Here, which is literally my favorite horror book of all time. And so when I saw that he was coming out with this book, my expectations, my bar was high, okay? My bar was all the way up here. And did he meet that? Heck yes, that and more, because oh my goodness, you guys, this book is so good. So if you guys do not know, we start off the book right away following this guy who has to follow these rites and these rules in order to prevent this demon thing from getting out of his property and basically causing the end of the world and basically causing the red sun to rise and then the apocalypse to begin. And so he ends up going missing, or no, he ends up passing away. And then the wife ends up putting up a Craigslist position saying like, hey, I just need somebody to watch the house for 3 days, very good pay. And our main character, Macy, is absolutely desperate because she lives in a tiny town where it's very hard to get a job. And when she does get a job, it's very hard for her to hold it because she has so much trauma. And Macy is in her younger 20s. And she has no family. She has no mom because her mom kind of dipped out on them. And then her father is gone as well. And so she's kind of taking care of her 17-year-old sister. And it's just them two living together. And she's due on her rent. She's behind on her rent. And she has no money whatsoever. So being desperate, she decides to go. And then she meets the wife of the caretaker of the house, the owner of the house, right? She's the wife of that guy. And she offers her $9,000 to watch the house for 3 days. And Macy is like so desperate for money. So she says, yeah, is it a little sus? Yes, but I need the money. So she ends up going home with a VCR tape that she has to watch alone. And in this VCR tape, which she decides to watch with her sister, it talks about all these rules that she has to follow. Like she has to make sure that between 3 to 4 a.m., the lights have to all be off. And if a light comes on, you can't let it be on for longer than 3 minutes. If you see a rabbit in the house, you have to automatically catch it within 10 minutes and then you have to toss it out. And then like there's all these rules that she has to follow in order for her to be safe and in order to prevent the red sun from rising. But obviously Macy thinks that it's just a joke. But because she's offered so much money and the wife says like if she does a good job, then she'll get her the extra bonus, meaning the 6,000 will be 9,000. So she's like, okay, whatever, I'll do your little weird rules. That's fine. It's only 3 days. And so once she stays there, she realizes she made a gigantic mistake. This book was so good. Number one thing that it had in this book that I don't believe was in We Used to Live Here was the humor. I loved Macy's younger sister. I loved her personality. She was absolutely hilarious. Like the way that she would talk and her little sarcastic little like comebacks had me dying and had me wanting to like write them down because I was just so obsessed. Like I loved this character so much. And even in a mere 291 pages, Marcus Kliewer had a really good way of making me really fall in love with these characters, specifically the sister. It's almost like I saw myself from Macy's perspective and I could see why she was so protective of her sister. On top of that, so that's just the bare bones of what I'm feeling with this book. Right away, this book is fast-paced, it grabs you by the throat, and it holds you there for the whole 291 pages. I was literally flipping page after page, and oh my God, you guys, Marcus Kliewer has this way of writing books where you don't just feel like you're watching a horror movie. You literally feel like you're living it, like it's happening to you. And I found myself, after I put the book down, I found myself literally going around my house and making sure that my doors were locked. I found myself making sure that all the lights that I had turned off were still off and not on. Like literally this book had me freaking paranoid. And I literally would have to snap out of it. I'd have to be like, oh wait, I'm not Macy. I'm not this character. Why the fudge am I doing this? I don't have to do this. That's this character. But that just shows you how much, how vivid, how real, how realistic, how captivating that this book was. It literally made me feel like I was in the story to the point where I would forget that I was reading a book. And when I put it down, I'd literally be like, oh my gosh, I have to go lock the doors. And only for me to be like, oh wait, that's the fictional story. Not only that, but at night, I literally would have nightmare after nightmare from this book. It was just so good. This book was literally the most scariest thing of all time. I loved it so much. It gave me the freaking creeps. And obviously there's no jump scares because it's not a movie, but oh my goodness, did this book freaking terrify me at times. Especially when I was reading it alone, right, in the quiet or with just a little book light at night. I'd be like, oh my God. I would literally be freaking out. This book was just so good. And then we have the ending. Now, one of the biggest complaints in We Used to Live Here was the ambiguous ending. And if you don't like ambiguous endings, I can see why that would bother you. But I love them. And Marcus Kliewer is literally the king of writing very good, like makes you stare at the wall. Afterwards, ambiguous endings. The way that this book ended literally had me staring at my wall for, I am not kidding, like a legit 5 minutes. I was obsessed. So not only is this book now my favorite, it beat We Used to Live Here, okay? So my top 2 favorite horror books of all time happen to be Marcus Kliewer books. This one is number 1 now. And not only that, but literally this is probably my favorite book I've ever read, ever. And because of this book, I found myself going to Barnes & Noble and going to the horror section because I'm now chasing this high. The anxiety, the tension, the freaky feelings that I was feeling when I was reading this, how tense I felt, how anxious I felt, how real it all felt. I'm chasing that high now. It was just like such a dopamine kick, such a adrenaline rush of a book that when I finished it, I'm literally just, like I said, chasing that high. So hello, hair. So good. So good. So needless to say, this book is 5 stars. Not only is this 5 stars, this book deserves all the stars, a million stars, a bajillion stars. Literally, I literally have just found my favorite book of all time. I just freaked out. I keep saying literally. Count how many times I've said literally. Too many times. I just freaked myself out because I was like, whoa, what's that? And it's this book. I need to stop. As you can see, I still have this book on my brain. But now I'm chasing the Caretaker high. So if you guys have a book that you think is absolutely terrifying, like this one, please, it makes you feel like you're in the book. Please just let me know, because oh my God, this book was so good. This book was like a combination of A Cabin in the Woods, right? Or The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, I guess would be the book. The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, or if you guys watch the movie, it's Knock on the Cabin Door, I believe. It gives me those vibes. So if you guys liked that book, or if you guys liked that movie, chances are you're probably going to enjoy this as well, because it reminds me of it so much. So good. So good. It's a whole different, unique take on a haunted house story. Such a unique concept, and just literally the best thing I've ever read in my life. So there's my final review for The Caretaker. And now I believe we're gonna read Japanese Gothic, and then I'm going to read MOLKA. Let's get to those books. Hello everyone, hi, how is thee, how art thee? I have an update for you on Japanese Gothic, because I am technically almost done with it. I'm about 70% through Japanese Gothic, and I really started listening to it yesterday, and honestly, it's pretty good. Now, to call this book a horror, I don't know about that. I don't know about calling it a horror book, but it definitely falls into a more like sci-fi Gothic sort of vibe, hence Japanese Gothic. So in this book, if you guys do not know, we are following 2 main characters. We are following Lee and we are following Sen. So Lee is living in our present time, and he used to live in New York at a college dorm, but then he is convinced that he unalived his roommate. He just doesn't remember how or why he did it or where the body is. But because of that, he becomes terrified and he escapes to Japan, where his father is. And so he goes to Japan, and the father lives in this old samurai house. And then we go back in time and we follow Sen, who is a samurai. She is almost like the last samurai, because samurais are now gone. But her father was a samurai, and he is teaching Sen how to become a samurai herself. And so we follow them, and she lives in this samurai house during the 200 years ago, around 200 years ago, back when the samurais were barely ending. And then, so one night, these two somehow manage to merge. They somehow see each other, and obviously Sen thinks that Lee is a ghost, and then Lee thinks that Sen is a ghost. And then the two meet, and then from there, things start to happen. This is definitely a very mind trip, fever dreamy, especially when we go to Lee's point of view of a book, because he definitely is not mentally stable. He's mentally not okay. You can tell he's on a lot of medications, but after he meets Sen, and after he realizes that yes, she in fact is real, he decides to stop taking his medication, and then from there things definitely they kick up a notch. So we're kind of trying to figure out whether Lee is really seeing these things or whether he's just picturing it in his head, because we know that he's not really mentally all there. And then from Sen's perspective, we see what she's going through as the daughter of a samurai. She definitely is not like, her father is very cold. He doesn't really have too much love for his children. Even Sen, like, and Sen is just so, she just really wants to impress her father. She just really wants to make her father proud of her. So she will go to the most extreme lengths to make sure that her father approves of her and sees her as the samurai that she desperately wants to be, per his approval. And so we follow these two characters as something happens, and then we're following Lee's story and something that he's dealing with, and then Sen's story, and then how the two merge. And it's definitely, it's a good book. Like, it's really, really good. I wouldn't say that this is a fast-paced book, but it definitely has a medium pace, and it's definitely and it's also very consistent in its pacing. It's not like it gets really slow and then it gets really fast. Like, I feel like it's very consistent with its like medium pacing. And I feel like I am equally as interested in Lee's story as I am with Sen's story. I definitely enjoy Sen more as a character. I think she is one of those badass female protagonists, but I also do enjoy Lee's side of the story. Not be like, his personality is okay. I don't like him because of his personality. I like him more because his story and everything that he's going with is also very interesting, and there's a lot of mysteries that are going on within the story as well, that the reader is like left to wonder alongside the main characters. And so it feels more of like, I guess it has like, it definitely has paranormal elements to it as well as sci-fi elements to it, but to consider it a full-on horror, I think is a little too extreme. I wouldn't call it a horror. I would call it more of a just dark, introspective, Gothic, historical fiction book, I think. But then it's not always historical fiction because we're also following modern time. I don't know where I would like place this genre of book. It's definitely very unique in its concept, and I love Kylie Lee Baker's writing. As far as compared to her first novel, which was Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, that one definitely has a much more horror forward approach than this one does. Yes, there are horror elements to it, but they're a lot more subtle than the horror aspects in the Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. However, if you guys liked the whole aspect of Cora Zhang and how we're kind of questioning her sanity while we're reading the book, if you liked that aspect of that book, you will probably like this one, because Lee's character has those same sort of vibes and characteristics, where we're also following to see, is Lee really saying these things, or is he crazy, much like Cora Zhang. So if you guys liked that aspect of the first book that she wrote, you definitely might like this one as well. So I think so far it's pretty good. I want to say, for me, if we continue down the path that we are going with this book, I want to say it's going to be a 4-star read. I have no idea what's going to happen next. It's very unpredictable. I cannot think of how this is going to end, what's going to happen. I have like a feeling that something might happen, but we'll see if I'm right or wrong. But there are, I have one thing that I think might happen. Other than that, everything else is just kind of up in the air. So I like that. I'm kind of left wondering, like, okay, where is this going? So definitely enjoy that aspect of it. So if we continue down with this pace, and if we continue down with this path and where the plot's going, I definitely see myself leaning more towards a 4-star. It's definitely not at 5-star level like Bat Eater and Other Names but for Cora Zhang is, but also that book I didn't give a 5-star up until like the very end, that I was like, okay, this is a 5-star read. Up until then, I was like so sure that it was going to be a 4-star read. So who knows where this book is going to take me. It's definitely very
interesting, it's very entertaining, the concept is very unique, even the genre that it fits in is very unique, and it has a lot of like little elements that I love. I love time loops, and we have time loops. I love paranormal elements, and we have paranormal elements. And there's even like a little hint. I don't want to say a full-on romance. It's definitely not a romance, but there are definitely little small minor little romantic details in there. As of right now, we don't know where it's going. We don't even know what's going to happen. It could be an absolute disaster, and I could be completely wrong, but that's what I'm seeing as of now. So that's my update for Japanese Gothic, and I will let you know if that is my final thoughts when I get to the very end. I plan on finishing this up today. I'm like 100% sure I'm going to finish this today. I don't even want to say 99%. Like, I'm 100% sure I'm going to finish this today. So I will let you know how this goes.
Hey you guys, welcome to my library. So today I have my final review for Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. You know how yesterday I said that I was going to finish this book yesterday? Apparently I did not. I finished it this morning. However, that's okay. That's fine. I loved this book. I had so much fun reading this book. I loved this book. I found myself, usually when I listen to audiobooks, I sometimes find myself like drifting off, right? Because like my brain just goes and goes somewhere else. And with this one, I felt like my brain was engaged the entire time. This is my first time listening to a Kylie Lee Baker book because Bat Eater and Other Names for Corzang I read physically. And I really love this book. I really love this book. So I kind of already told you what the book is about. Follow Lee, who believes that he unalived his roommate, so he hides in Japan at his father's house in Japan. And then his father lives in this like old samurai house. And then Lee opens up this door that leads to a different era. It leads to like the 1800s. And then we are following Sen, who is a samurai in those 1800s. And then these two characters somehow come together. So it has those aspects of a time loop and all of that. And not only that, but it has this like descent into madness. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know that throughout the novel we were going to follow such a mentally unstable character such as Lee. We're sort of questioning whether it's all in his head, including Sen, if it's all in his head, or whether this is actually happening. I like how as we read Lee's like unreliable narrator personality, we're also questioning every single thing that he says alongside him, or everything that he experiences alongside him. I really enjoyed Sen as a character as well. I thought she was really badass for her time, especially. She was somebody that was raised to be a samurai, and she's never shown any love from her father, and all she ever wants to do is like kind of appease her father and meet his expectations, which is really, really hard. And so we follow these two characters as their story merges, and then these two characters are left wondering why their story merges, like what made them meet. And so Lee starts to believe that it's because they both have unalived people, because Sen is a samurai and Lee believes that he unalived his roommate. But is it? You have to read it to find out. This book was really, really good. I was not expecting the twist that it took. It definitely has a very dark twist, but I loved it. Like, I really loved it. Once I got a grasp of what was happening, once I reached the end and I realized what's happening to these characters, why they are able to meet, my mind, like, it just exploded. I was like, oh my goodness. So good. Kylie Lee Baker did it again. It was just so good. It was just so, so good. While this book is categorized as horror, it definitely has its paranormal elements to it, but I wouldn't call it a horror book. I would lean this one more towards a Gothic fantasy, historical fiction sort of vibe. And you can tell that the author really did do a deep dive on samurais and the history in Japan And like, I loved that because in the back there was like an author's note. And then I found out that she is part Okinawan, which is where my fiance is from. His family's from Okinawa. So I don't know, I just thought that was cool. So anyways, and so I really liked it. I really liked it. It definitely was easy. I would say that it's easy to read and easy to grasp, but at the same time, you still have to pay attention to what's happening. You have to focus on it. You can't really like let your mind wander too much, or else you can get a little bit lost, especially nearing towards the end. And I found myself that I like didn't really understand the ending until like I started looking into other people's reviews and seeing what they thought and seeing their spoilers. And I was like, oh my gosh, like once I realized what was happening, I was like, this was amazing. So I'm going to give this book, Japanese Gothic, 2 out of 5. It's because my camera's at 2 minutes. No, 4 out of 5 stars. Between 4 to 4.5 stars out of 5. But I think I'm going to settle at 4 out of 5 stars. Kylie Lee Baker did it once again. And I'm so excited because this is now going to be an auto buy author for me. Anything that she publishes, I'm going to run to the bookstore for. So that's it, you guys. That is my review for Japanese Gothic. Now let's move on to the next book. Hello, you guys. I am here with a review for MOLKA by Monika Kim. So I finally finished this, and I'm sorry that I didn't update you guys, but I actually read this really fast. I finished it in like 1 or 2 days. So I finished this quickly. And I think I finished it quickly because, not necessarily because I was so obsessed with it, but simply because it was a short read. It was a short read. It was really easy to fly through, and I just had a lot of extra time because I was doing a lot of stuff that involved me not really having anything else to do. For example, I had to charge the rental car, and the rental car takes a lot of time to charge. It's like some car called like a Polestar or something like that. So even the quick charge took me like an hour and a half. So I read a lot during that time. And I find because I'm reading a lot more frequently now, I'm able to read a lot faster, so I finished this pretty quickly. Anyways, if you guys do not know, in MOLKA we're following 2 main characters. We're following a horrible man named Jun Young, and then we're following a woman named Daye. So Jun Young he's like an IT guy, and he works at this big company, and he basically fixes all the computers. And he has a camera. He has cameras hidden in the women's restroom that he uses to spy on them. And then he becomes obsessed with one of our characters named Daye. And Daye is this girl who had a sister that ended up passing away in a tragedy, and ever since then she's been kind of, I guess, traumatized because of it. Her parents treat her badly because they're like, oh, why couldn't it be you, basically. And then she has a boyfriend. She finds this boyfriend that is literally, he's rich, he's sweet, he's kind, he's nice. Daye's like, oh my gosh, this is the man of my dreams. It should have been my sister that was with this man. And so we're following Daye and her boyfriend, and then eventually, unfortunately, she gets caught up in a MOLKA scandal, which means like a hidden camera scandal, and it goes viral because this guy is famous. And so she basically goes viral. She ends up getting in a very bad depression because of it, and then things ensue from there. So we're going back and forth between Jun Young's point of view and him having this obsession for Daye, and then we're pivoting to Daye as her like hatred for men, I guess, just grows more and more and more, because the MOLKA situation, this hidden camera situation, was a epidemic that was like happening in all of Korea. It was happening to a lot of women in a lot of places all over Korea. And when it came to the men, they didn't really have any, even if they had criminal charges, they weren't really charged that much. Like they'd have like 6 months of jail, or, you know, something that wasn't that severe for something that could be so life-changing and traumatic for a woman. They didn't get what they deserved because of it. And so Daye, she starts to hear this more and more and more, and she kind of decides, maybe I should take matters into my own hands. I'm not going to tell you what that means. You can read it for yourself, but it basically has a lot of social commentary on how women are treated versus how men are treated, how women in society are viewed versus how men are viewed. If like a man does something like this, especially in Korea, they're kind of like, men will just be men. But if a woman were to do something similar to this, or she were to have disciplined a man for doing something like this, then she would get a lot more jail time than the man did in Korea. So definitely it tells you like the horrible, unfortunate, very messed up sort of gender roles that, you know, they put, especially in Korea. So it talks a lot about that, talks about the MOLKA scandal, talks about women versus men, talks about the power dynamics, right? And so I really liked that aspect of it. However, where I didn't like was, okay, first of all, I feel like the story was pretty slow paced, right? But I still enjoyed following Daye's perspective. I did not like following Jun Young's perspective, even though I know the point was to be in this sick man's head. So you can see how somebody like that thinks, to basically let people see like how it really is, how uncomfortable it is, so that you can kind of see, like, imagine if this was you that this person was targeting, if it was your daughter that this person was targeting, your sister, you know what I mean? Like any woman that you care about, if it was them being targeted this way, how disgusting you would feel. And that was the point of following Jun Young's perspective. That doesn't mean that it was comfortable. It definitely was not comfortable. And also just following all these sick men, like just sick, disgusting men, and I hated that. And not only that, but I feel like the way that it ended, I feel like I didn't get the justice that I wanted. I feel like it could have been a little bit even more extreme. I definitely feel like it could have been bigger, although I do understand the point of why it was handled the way it was. So because of all of that, I'm going to have to give this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely wasn't my favorite out of Monika Kim's. I love that we're still touching on like feminist subjects and everything like that. But from the 2 books that she's written, I definitely like The Eyes Are the Best Part a lot more than MOLKA. However, this wasn't bad, and I definitely do feel like this is a good book to read, to kind of, especially for men, to see how certain situations are handled for when it comes to women, and how we often feel targeted, and how it feels to be seen as like an object and seen in this viewpoint. Because if you read from this man's perspective as a man, you might be like, if you're a decent human being, I feel like you'd be like, okay, that's gross, I understand why now. And so I definitely think that it's important for that aspect. However, that being said, it wasn't fast paced. I didn't feel like the ending was the justice that we deserved. And I didn't like Jun Young's perspective, even though I feel like I know it needed to be necessary. It was slow paced, and it definitely wasn't the strongest out of the 2 books that she's written. However, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to pick anything up from her. I still enjoyed this, and I definitely will continue to pick up Monika Kim's works, especially since she writes a lot of feminist horror. And there is a paranormal element to it that I really did enjoy as well, that also has to do a lot with the social commentary behind this book. So just keep that in mind as well. But definitely check for trigger warnings, because it is very dark and disgusting and disturbing. But this is a good book. So 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, you guys, so we've reached the very end of this video. So I'm going to give you guys a little tier ranking of my books, of the books that I read for this one. So in the end, So I'm gonna give you from lowest to highest, favorite, least favorite to favorite book, like in this reading vlog. So starting off at the very bottom, I'm going to put MOLKA by Monika Kim. This I gave like a 3.5 to. It just wasn't the strongest execution, and I just feel like for a book that I was expecting so much feminine rage and so much like this person got what they deserve behind it, I just felt like I didn't get that. I felt a little bit disappointed, and I feel like what happened wasn't justified as much as I had hoped it would be. And so this is going to be at the very bottom of the stack, but still a 3.5 is not bad. Above that, I'm going to put Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer. This was good, but it wasn't the best. This was a 4-star read for me, but I still very much enjoyed this. And it definitely had a bigger execution on its feminine horror and feminine rage than MOLKA did. It was a lot more satisfying. That's the word that I'm looking for, than MOLKA. And then on top of that, I'm going to put Japanese Gothic, which was another 4-star read, but the way that this book ended, like it ends like I love my books to end. Like, I don't know, like when it comes to horror, there's specific like little things that I like, and I can't even tell you what tropes because it would give away the ending. And so there's this trope that I really like in horror specifically, and I just like when like horror messes with your mind so much and it gets super dark, and that is what this book gave me. Very satisfied with this one. So this one is a 4.25. We'll do 4.25 for this one, so it's gonna go here. And then at the very, very tippy top, right, becoming my favorite book, my favorite horror book, and not only my favorite horror book, but probably my favorite book of all time now, is The Caretaker. The Caretaker by Marcus Kliewer takes the cake for this little ranking stack. Like, I literally, Marcus Kliewer did it yet again. We Used to Live Here was my favorite horror book, and this one somehow topped that one. So the fact that this man has yet to disappoint me, and my bar was already set very, very high for this book, I'm just so freaking excited. I'm just so happy, and I this is going to be an automatic buy author for me, and he's already become one of my favorite authors because even though he's only written 2 books, they've both been 5 stars. They've both been my favorite horror books of all time, and this one has literally become my favorite book of all time. So very excited for this, very happy, so satisfied with this reading vlog. Like horror is on a roll, specifically a lot of like feminist horror. I'm loving the feminine rage horror that we've been getting more and more these past 3 years. Like, I'm so freaking excited. So I can't wait to do another one of these videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you got to the very end, put a tree emoji because there's trees right here in The Caretaker. And let me know if you read any of these, which book you enjoyed the most, and if you haven't, which one you're excited to pick up. So thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys got to the very end, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to be notified when I post. And also YouTube has this like hype option, so if you can hype up this video because it really helps out my channel as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!